Welcome to the Real Estate Real Success podcast, where we talk about key business successes, best practices, and lessons learned along the way in the hopes of inspiring brokerage owners and managers to find new ways to grow their business. I'm Chiyoko Kikino. In this episode, we're going to talk about how brokerages can leverage AI in their recruiting retention efforts, as well as how they can support, advise, and empower their agents in this next-gen technology. I'm super excited to be joined by Ron O'Neill, a gentleman very close to my heart. He's not only a trainer, a mentor, a coach, a C21 family member, but he's also the founder and owner of AI Solutions, Intelligent Solutions in Barrie, Ontario. Ron, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always nice to see your face.
Thank you so much. What a great introduction. And as you know, Chiyoko, Therese and I, we're your biggest fans with Century 21, and thank you for helping us out over the years. And just before the pandemic, coming out and joining our brokerage for the awards and seeing you last week here in Toronto was definitely a treat. So I really appreciate it. So thank you for having me.
Yes, well, it's so nice. Yes, you two are very special to me too. So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
So Ron, why don't we start off by you giving us a little bit of background on yourself and your journey to where you are today, because you're doing so many new things and we're super excited to hear a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, basically my journey with all this started actually 23 years ago when I got into the facilitation and curriculum development and a lot of different fields, especially sales and then technology and stuff. And it really kind of grew over the years and traveling internationally and then coming back to Canada about 8 years ago. In fact, you and I joined almost the same day, the same year with Century 21. And I've been on this journey. I actually joined up with Century 21 BJ Roth in Barrie. And I was not even a real estate trainer. Bernie Roth, the owner, really took a huge risk with me and said, hey, I need somebody with a new set of eyes and to take this completely different. And for over about a year and a half being in the position, I really didn't know what I was doing. And it took a really long time to figure it all out. And I learned that being in the real estate industry is completely different than the corporate field and sales and stuff like that. So it was a tough learning curve, but I stayed on. And then about a year ago, as things were coming down out of the pandemic, Teresa, who is my right-hand person with the brokerage, my spouse as well, what we had decided was she wanted to move into an agent position and start up with a team with Jillian Lynch with Century 21. And I still wanted to be with Century 21 because both Teresa and myself were huge advocates of Easter seals and we love the family. And we've, the corporate team, the executive team, that you guys have always embraced us. And the whole thing is we just don't want to leave as what you coined a number of years ago, the C21 family. And it really resonates with us too today. And then joined up with Leaders Edge Training. I'm the Canadian trainer up here in Canada. And then I started up at AI Intelligent Solutions over the past year.
That's amazing. Yeah, you've just done so many great things in the last year. So congratulations.
Thank you.
It's been an exciting journey and I love watching it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your company, AI Intelligent Solutions? So give us a little bit of background on your company and what its main purpose is.
Yeah, I always like to talk about the core values of the company, and it's all about AI safety and regulation. Because what's happening is, let's take a look at the cryptocurrency space. Even in the Canadian cryptocurrency space, there's very little regulation. And if you were to compare cryptocurrency technology to AI technology, AI is advancing so quickly, so advanced, that unfortunately there's going to be malicious actors out there that are going to take advantage of this technology and go after people with it, whether it's financial, whatever the situation might be. Even last week, you take a look at that one photo of the attack on the Pentagon, it crashed the stock market, and it's just things like that. And that's where it became a huge concern for me. So I started a company with the using AI safety and building a proper morals and ethics through consultation and training across many businesses, and to understand how powerful this technology is.
I know that you've been talking about this for the last, 6 to 9 months, like very actively. And so how did you get interested in AI? Because you've really become like a first adopter when it comes to this technology.
Yeah, I'm always a bit of a tech nerd. I'm always trying to figure out, whether it's the metaverse is the next big thing, or VR, or whatever the situation, or Web 3.0. And because there's been a lot of technology changes I've looked at, and all of a sudden AI, about 3 years ago, there was a small company called OpenAI down in California that very few people even heard about. I got word that they were looking for beta testers 3 years ago, and with their ChatGPT 1.0 system. And so they were looking for people in different real estate or different economic spaces and businesses and industries. And there was one section there for real estate. And I thought, you know what, there's probably 50, 60 other people that have already applied. So I put my application in to be a beta tester with the ChatGPT system. And about a month later, I received an email going through some security checks and stuff like that. I'm thinking, I think I got in. And about a month later after that, I got access to ChatGPT. But back then, the technology was very rudimentary. You'd have to manipulate it. You'd have to ask it multiple questions to get even the right answer. And sometimes it wasn't always the right answer. And it would always give you maybe a few words to a few sentences. And as it continued on through 2020, then we moved into 2021, I started hearing about other AI companies that started to pop up with using this technology, such as Jasper and Perplexity and all these others. So I started to jump in and became affiliate partners with these companies. And by the third quarter of 2020, or by the summer of 2022 last year, you could really see it was not just giving me a few sentences, it was giving me a paragraph. And by the third quarter, it was giving me blogs. It was giving me, 1,000, 2,000 word write-ups on different things. But there's certainly limitations to that. We're going to talk about that. But the whole thing is that then as we moved into 2023, image creation started. It wasn't just language, it was image. And
Wow.
we were just talking about this off the podcast here, and talking about just what's happened in the last 2-3 weeks in image creation is incredible. So it's just watching this process is incredible, because I remember 3 years ago, it was a month would go by and you'd have a wow moment, right? And then a year and a half ago, it would be every week there was a wow moment. And now it's almost every single day I wake up, and I woke up this morning and 26 new AI companies were developed overnight, right?
Unbelievable.
So it's moving really fast, quite quickly. And the advancements are both scary sometimes, but also, as the CEO of NVIDIA said the other day on stage, he says, you need to adopt it. The businesses that don't adopt it are going to be left behind very quickly.
And we're going to talk a little bit about that, right? Is how AI can give a brokerage a competitive edge. So you've been on this journey for 3 years. Like, you've been on the journey with AI,
Yes.
because you've been part of that for so long. You've seen so many incredible changes. So on a high level, how do you think AI is impacting the real estate industry?
Well, when I first started teaching out and meeting up with brokerages and agents and stuff, the first kind of impact was content creation, right? So if you talk to a real estate agent, what do they hate doing? They hate doing the write-ups for their property descriptions. And that was one of the first things that we did, where we'd go in and we'd use Jasper at the time, or we'd use ChatGPT 3.5. And we go, I want you to create a real estate property description for this 1,200 square foot home, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, and located in the north end of Barrie. And it would come out with a beautiful property description. So that was the first kind of the start. Then it started to move over into the newsletters, right? So this is when we're talking about brokerages and stuff like that, how you can really leverage this type of technology and say, hey, do you want to show value added to your agents? Creating newsletters, you can pump out, I think I was averaging about 30 blogs an hour, right? In all different topics, right? And the whole thing is that as a brokerage, you can really promote that out and say, hey, you don't have to go to that third-party company now in creating newsletters. Also, like email responses and responses to clients and brokerages to agents as well. Email responses have to be done in a very empathetic sometimes, or more of a stronger tonality and stuff like that. And the whole thing is that the email responses have gotten really better. One of the emails that I sent to you, Chiyoko, and you probably noticed, it was well written. It certainly didn't come from me. It came from the AI system about the podcast. And
so when you tell me that you like me so much and all that, it's AI. So you're not really saying that.
No. That came from me.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I know. The thing is also we're talking about this. You and Chiyoko and I were talking about this last week. Is that when the newsletters started to come out first, and the email responses and how we were working it, the tonality was very low. It was just that very basic, right? But the tonality of how we can change it up, we can make it act like Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett or Elon Musk, and they can create that language around those types of people that are out there. And so that's another thing that's there. Social media content for sure, both image as well as content creation. That's a big thing. Like I work in Jasper.ai a lot for social media content. It can pump out literally 100 social media posts for me in an hour, right? And all different. And you could use the value added statements, and you can teach it to do call to actions and stuff. And you don't even have to do, you just have to pump it out and say, hey, look, I got an open house, do the value added on this, and do the call to action, and it'll create it for you. Also, website content, that's a given. SEO, meta tags. I'm doing a presentation to a finance company right after this, and what I did was in the last hour, I took their website and I basically asked the AI, I want you to act as a SEO website developer, and I want you to review this website. And it came back with recommendations to change their website, and all
Unbelievable.
the SEO. And so it's amazing. Then I took it and I took the competitor's website and their website, and then I said, make comparisons on how we can improve on this one website compared to the competition. And it created a whole vision, created a whole different set of parameters on how to build it out as well. The one thing I really like is listing presentations, because a lot of listing presentations that we have out there are fairly generic. I'm not saying they're all generic, because we do change up our listing presentations when we go to use them. The whole thing is, as I was mentioning to you last week, Chioka, you can really go into like Gamma or Toom, which are both AI companies that create listing presentations or slide decks. And you can literally say, if you're going out to meet up with a 72-year-old couple that's downsizing, what it'll do is it'll create basically a listing presentation with larger fonts in them, and it'll talk about the benefits of downsizing and things that they need to get prepared. So you can basically tailor your AI or your listing presentations every single time, right? And that's very powerful. Another thing is real estate data. I'm just working in Realm, which is the new TREB, the Toronto Real Estate Board MLS system, and you can tell that they're using some automation and AI in there for sure. And the whole thing is that now we can, I was working within Zillow. Zillow has a new plugin for ChatGPT, and what I was doing was I said, I need to rent a place up to $2,200, but it needs to be within 5 kilometers of the hospital, and it has to be 1 bedroom on the lower level, and it needs a parking space. I literally just communicate that out, and it pulled up all the properties, the rental properties for through that plugin. And that's amazing. Never seen that before, right? Also, we're planning a trip, and one of the plugins is going on to Kayak. I know we're going on a bit of a tangent, but literally Kayak and Expedia, I had those 2 plugins, and I said, I want you to find flights on this date and time, and I want you to direct flights. And I said, I want to land between this time, and I want you to pick out a small stand. It gave me everything, all the pricing and everything, and where to pick it up, etc. So it's very powerful. Scripts, the whole thing is if you're doing in-house training with your agents, you can create door knocking scripts, cold calling scripts, rebuttals, and it's very extensive for the training end of things as well. So and meeting notes, a lot of times especially for me, managing the brokerage with Teresa for so many years, we're always sometimes, because we did weekly meetings, we're like, okay, what do we need to talk about this week? I'd go on to BNN Bloomberg or Globe and Mail and stuff, and pull in some articles, and it would pick out some topics that I should be talking about, whether it's the interest rates or the low inventory. So that's just the start. That's just the high level, and it just goes on and on.
Well, it's interesting because I think I was watching Jared James do some webinar, probably, I'm going to say in the third quarter of last year. And I remember him at the very beginning saying, real estate professionals these days need to be content curators. And he goes, I bet you when you decided to get into real estate, you didn't realize you had to be content curators. And this really helps that, because I think when Jared said that, I think everyone's going, oh, great. I'm a people person. I like to talk to people in person, and help them find their dream home, but I'm not someone that wants to sit behind and actually, curate content all the time. So this definitely helps that. It helps to, I'm going to say, increase, and we're going to talk a little bit about communication and curating content and stuff like that. But then they can focus on the things that they're really good at, which is, picking up the phone and calling their clients and being right face to face with their clients, right?
Yeah, and I think that the key thing is this is not the silver bullet to find you leads, okay? It's going to certainly assist you. This is, I just remember when the internet came along, and I remember working with a lot of the great people in the social media space with Curator, with Chris Smith and Jimmy Mackin and those guys many years ago with lead generation. And but the whole thing is that the agents that are going to be successful in this industry are going to adopt this, but understand the basics of this industry, because I'm a facilitator with Leaders Edge training. And the whole thing is it's always nose, toes, belly, right? The whole thing is the agents that are going to survive are the ones that are picking up the phone, the ones that are engaging their clients. This is the AI systems are going to make it a lot easier. It's going to obviously save your money, streamline your systems as well. And that's what's really important. And it was interesting. I was looking at a CRM in the beta version, and this was interesting. A lot of the CRMs that we see today are going to really definitely change. One of the ones that I saw that was in a beta version with not in the real estate field, but what it does is it goes into your CRM, and basically it takes a look at when the last time you contacted, text them or emailed them. And then what it does is it goes over to your notes. If you put notes in them, you should put your notes in your CRM. And then what it does is then it goes over to the it goes over to the client's social media accounts. And what it does is it reads all the social media posts and then sends a text or an email to the client saying, hey, I saw that you were on vacation in Cuba last week. How's the vacation? And that's
Unbelievable.
yeah, so that's one of the things that we're seeing that's coming down the line. And, you know, the CRMs are definitely going to change the way we engage our clients, and it's certainly going to make it more personalized. And so instead of sending out an email that's generic, it's going to be sent out, it's more personalized, right? So that's why CRMs are going to be more and more important today than ever before.
So being a trainer and a coach, as you said, for Leaders Edge training, I'm sure you speak to tons of realtors and brokerage owners. So I'm interested in better understanding the current sentiment on AI, because, you know, when I talk to people about it, or when I'm doing presentations and I talk about, you know, how to leverage AI, you know, some people are super fearful of it. Other people
Yes.
don't like it at all. They just don't even want to know it's, you know, happening. And then there are other ones that are just like eager to go at it, and they're just like adopting the technology, you know, to do listing presentations, to do home buyer guides.
Yeah.
So what are you hearing on the streets?
Yeah, and because I've been talking about it, because I'm an advocate, but also on the safety end of things, and creating the ethics and morals of the use of the technology. I think what happens is there is a good percentage of people out there that are adopting it and understand that. But what they've done is they've gone on to ChatGPT, because that's everybody knows about ChatGPT, and they tried it out and the server was down, and or it didn't work for them, or they didn't know how to use it, and they said it was neat. You know, I've used it a couple times, but they didn't really go down the rabbit hole far enough. But then there's another group, right? There's the other group that think of Terminator, think of Skynet, they think of 1984, and there's definitely fear out there for sure. And the whole thing is that automation has been around for decades. You know, I was a former commercial pilot before I even started facilitation, and I remember, you know, at that time, automation. I remember the commercial airline industry that didn't want to talk about the public about autopilot and all this and automation. And in fact, 98%, as soon as you get on a commercial airline today, 98% of it is automated, right? And but when you take a look at what causes most airline accidents, it's 80% human error. So, you know, and I always go back to Tesla. You know, when Elon Musk developed the automation within Tesla, and why he built out the Tesla car was not because he wanted to build out an electric car. He wanted to build out a car that was safer. And the whole thing is, and that was the whole goal of it. But the whole thing is, education is key. You know, you can't be left behind in this industry. It's just like, you know, I always go back to the analogy, you know, when I go see my grandmother, you know, 15 years ago, my grandmother would say, oh, bring me photos, bring me photos. Now my grandmother says, what, you haven't posted anything on Facebook. You know, and the whole thing is that at the end of the day, we have to adopt it. And AI is far different than most technologies. When we take a look at the evolutions over the years, when we take a look at the agricultural evolution, it took hundreds and hundreds of years. When we take a look at the, you know, industrial evolution that took decades, this, you know, when we take a look at the launch of ChatGPT, in November of 2022, within 5 days, it was the most adopted technology in the world. There was over 1 million people that had subscribed to it. It beat out everything, and the marketing and advertising costs that OpenAI did was zero.
Right.
Right. So the people in the know, like, the people that are in the tech space or have delved into the AI, we really know what's going on behind the scenes. And the whole thing is that it scares us sometimes. It really does, because how advanced and how quickly, we take a look at, we were talking about this last week. I was able to take Teresa and take her voice and clone the voice within less than a few minutes, right? And it was I couldn't tell the difference if it was her or not. And obviously, we're talking about deep fakes and, cloning of voices and stuff like that. The thing is that at the end of the day, we have to be very careful with this and understand that when we're using the technology, especially because why is ChatGPT 3.5 free? Why is Perplexity, which is a kind of kickoff from ChatGPT, why is it free? Well, because these companies, what they're doing is they're taking your data. You shouldn't be taking confidential information and putting it inside of these data sets or these AI systems, because they're taking it and it's confidential. And what they're doing is they're learning from you, and the system is also learning from you. So you have to be very, very careful with that, and especially with confidential information. The other thing I was going to mention is I've been working with a seniors facility. I was doing a presentation on this, and with people with dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that. What we've been doing is, and especially with families, kids, and parents and stuff, use passwords, verbal passwords that nobody else knows except for the family. And I know with Alzheimer's and dementia, that's a bit of a challenge, but there was other things that we implemented to protect the seniors. But the whole thing is use verbal passwords. That is the critical part of this. We had one of the agents, I don't believe it was from the C21 family. The father was scammed out of over $10,000 a number of months ago. And again, the reason why it happened was because the agent had a podcast in Toronto on real estate. Whoever the malicious actor was, they cloned the voice, and over a period of 2 days was able to get over $10,000 out of the father. So
unbelievable. So when we talk about, you talked a little bit about safety, is that kind of the first thing that brokerage owners need to understand about AI and helping guide and empower their realtors? Or talk a little bit more about, what they can do, making sure that, their realtors and as well as themselves are safe when it comes to using AI?
Yeah, the whole thing is that when you're using AI, it hallucinates as well, right? So we have to do our fiduciary due diligence is when we're using AI to create content or put an email response or a social media post out there, that we have to, we're only at what we call the AI level, which is the first level. And then that next level, which is coming down the road, I don't know how many years from now, and that's called artificial general intelligence. That's when it literally thinks like a human all the time, right? And it doesn't need any teaching. It's actually now learning itself, which it already is, but general intelligence. But we're still at the AI level. The whole thing is that when you're going to send something out, make sure you read it. And because I had Ben Rabideau in one of my presentations. Ben Rabideau is one of our great economic and real estate advisors across Canada here. And I brought one of his reports and brought it in, and the AI could not create a similar report because you still need human reasoning. And the whole thing is that, if you got kids out there, I can tell you right now, I was at an Easter Seals event with the kids a couple of weeks ago. And when the parents kind of scattered off, and I leaned in over at the table, I said, how many of you guys are using ChatGPT for their essays? And they're like, we all are, right? And the whole thing is that, you take a look at some of the Twitter posts out there about the ChatGPT and some of the essays that kids are handing in, they're becoming over reliant on the technology. And some people might say that this is going to kill creation or the human brain for creation, but the whole thing is it's just going to create a higher level. We just don't know what that looks like. But again, don't become over reliant. Be careful where you're putting your data. And the whole thing is, at the end of the day, you should be implementing regulations within your brokerages regarding this, and teaching agents and staff about creating content and sending it out to the world.
Right. It's all about educating, right? So they're knowledgeable.
Mhm.
So why is it, to give us your sales pitch? Because I know that there's still people out there that are nervous about this, they're intimidated to, sign up to Chat GPT. Why is it important for brokerages to use AI? What's that sales pitch? What can you say to get people to go, okay, you know what, I've got to just move forward and adopt this technology?
Yeah, the thing is the competition is going to take over. Like if you're not going to embrace AI, your competition down the road, and then you're going to lose agents. The whole thing is the AI is not complicated. It's very easy to use, and the whole thing is that start adopting it now. Be the first adopter and show the agents that you're using it, and then but educate them and take the fear out of them. They're not going to run away from the brokerage if you start using AI. But the whole thing is it's important to start to incorporate it and start to show them how you can do newsletters and how your brokerage is using it for newsletter or content creation. Bring trainers in like me who are going to train out these new tools and how to engage your agents in doing that, as well as the brokerage. I have a bunch of brokerage meetings at the management and the broker and owner level over the next number of months, which is great. And it's so nice to see the brokers really adopting this. And sometimes I mentioned a couple months ago, hey, if you give me a call about AI, if you need some training or get some insight, and now I'm getting the emails going, oh boy, I better get on top of this. The other thing is that you have to start to develop what I call AI intuition. So basically what that is to start to reframe your mind about AI, because right now we have an image of it, but we just really haven't gone down the rabbit hole and start using that technology. So I use a website called futurepedia.io. What that website is it's an aggregating AI website. So it basically every single day it grabs all the new technology within AI and puts it onto this platform, and then you can go through it, whether it's language creation for content or social media content, newsletters or pictures or videos, all that, and you can go into it and you can start playing with technology and start to see, oh wow, I can implement it this way or implement it that way. The thing is that there's so much technology that can streamline your business. You just got to start working with it right now. And the big thing that people need to start to learn is called prompt engineering. That's kind of the tagline over the last couple of weeks. And what prompt engineering is, two fancy words, which means how to ask a question to get ChatGPT or another AI system to do what the results that you want, right? And that's critical. And it's not complicated unless you're dealing with image creation, but when it comes to language creation, it's pretty simple.
Right. It's interesting too, is that when people refer to AI, everybody refers to it as Chat GPT. Like they don't even say AI, they say Chat GPT. But there are other AI programs out there. So what are some of the AI programs that maybe brokerages should be exploring?
Yeah, the ones that, because I've been going through so many different experiences with the AI and with our brokerage here. So one of the big things is that, first of all, use futurepedia.io. That's number one, go in there. The one thing I've been using a lot lately is called Cody. That's CODY.ai. And what it is that I'll give you an experience why I use Cody.ai. So our broker of record, I gotta give her so much credit. She went live in a broadcast talking about this new bill here in Ontario, this new real estate bill called TRESA. And the bill was very convoluted, very complex. And what had happened was she parked a lot of questions and stuff, because it's very hard to answer all the questions that came across. And I started thinking about this, is that there must be an AI system out there where I can basically take the content from the bill, put it inside of an AI or a language learning machine, let it learn it, and then start asking it questions. And so I found Cody.ai, literally took the TRESA bill, took some other collateral information, put it inside, started asking all the questions that I can, and bang, 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 it was answering it black and white through the whole process. And that can extend to basically your brokerage policies and procedures. You can put anything inside of these chatbots. They call them chatbots, right? Because there's individual language learning machines. Another thing, and this is where it gets a little tricky with about copywriting. So I've been able to basically take books from high-level negotiating people in the world. I'm not going to mention any of the books, but I literally took those books, put them inside of AI chatbot systems, let it learn. Now, it's not learning the outside world, it's learning those books itself. And literally becomes one of the best negotiators in real estate, right? And it rebuttals and it does open-ended questions, and what it does is it converts it for a meeting, right? So this is just the beginning. And those chatbots, imagine this: when you go to Cody.ai, it literally builds without you knowing coding. It literally builds out the chatbot for you. So you can imagine the power of that. Now, the other one, website I use quite a bit, and we're talking about listing presentations, and that is called Gamma, Gamma, and Toom. The whole thing is that you can literally create slide decks within minutes, whether you're doing a listing presentation or you're doing a meeting presentation to your brokerage. But that's called dual AI, or dual singular, or dual systems. So what it is creating the image for you, and that's uncopyrighted, and then it creates the content on the slide deck that's not plagiarized, and it brings it together. And I was talking to Jocelyn and Shioka before this, that 2.5, 3 weeks ago, when it was creating the images, when it was creating the fingers and the images of the people, it was all mumble jumbled. In the last week or so, they've corrected that all. The images look so spectacular, right? And so that's those for the listing presentations. That's a good one. Here's another one. It's called Get Floor Plan, and then it's AI, Get Floor Plan, and just type in AI. You can literally go into a house and literally scribble down on a piece of paper, just like this, just a simple, like this room is like 6 foot by 8 feet. The desk is there, and you just scribble it all down, and you literally take that piece of paper, you take a picture of it, upload it into getfloorplan.ai, and you could have a coffee stain on it, and it literally will build out a beautiful 3-dimensional floor plan for you. So that's another one. Another one that I was presenting at the C21 Management Academy in December it's called Interior.ai. And then another one that's similar to it is called AI Floor Planner. So basically what you can do is, we used to go to third-party companies when you take a photo of say a vacant condo. The problem is to get it rendered is about $40, right? Now these companies, it's basically $30 a subscription for a brokerage, and you can have unlimited use of creating those images and filling the furniture in and rendering the photos. Or you can go in, and I know a lot of people have seen over the last 5 days the Adobe Firefly program, where you basically can take a room that's full of garbage and basically it cleans it up. Now, yeah, the AI floor planner can do that as well. So these are just the first steps of this technology, but it's so clean and it's so unbelievable. That's so cheap, right? But again, if I have a marketing department, and I have a consultation with our brokerage on Friday regarding starting in the marketing department, how to implement some of this AI technology. And again, retaining our agents. So our agents are not spending $40 a photo. We're spending $30 a month for unlimited amount of photos to render, right? So another one that I really, really love, and I'm an affiliate partner with, is Jasper.ai. I've been with them for over 2 years now. And one thing I like about Jasper as compared to ChatGPT, the thing with ChatGPT is you have to figure out how to ask it, right? Whereas with Jasper, what it is it has all these templates. It says, you want to create a blog, click here. You want to create a real estate property description, click here. And so instead of you prompting it, you just put the information of what you want and it'll create it for you. So Jasper is a paid program, but it's a kind of a dumbed down version of ChatGPT, but it's way better because it guides you along through the process. The other thing I like about Jasper is that sometimes when we're talking to clients about, or agents about, kind of the legalese language of our real estate documents, you can literally copy and paste it into Jasper and it dumbs it down to a grade 6 level, and so you can easily explain it. So this is just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of AIs that have been built out, right? Like I said, when we woke up this morning and there's 26 new AI companies, by the end of the day, there's going to be 75 to 100 new companies. Now, we have to put this into context as well, is that this is no different from the .com explosion on the innovation. It's just way quicker, way faster because AI is helping us, right? So what's going to happen is there's going to be an explosion. And in a year from now, there's going to be an implosion because a lot of these companies are going to be duplicated. You have to be very careful where you're putting your money, because if you put a yearly subscription, you don't know if that company is going to be there in a year, right? Because a
Right.
lot of people that being laid off from IBM and Yahoo and Microsoft and stuff, a lot of these coders are basically walking across the street, starting up all these startups with AI, right? But they're not great marketers. They're just great coders, right? So that a lot of these companies are going to disappear over the next year or two. So,
Wow. Unbelievable. My mind is blown.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about content generation. So how can you gave some examples, but what are some other examples of how brokerages can use AI with their content curation?
Yeah, so the whole thing is that we go to a lot of third-party companies, and people in your marketing department or in different departments, what you can literally do is you can go into, I like Jasper because will create multiple blogs for you, whereas ChatGPT, where you kind of have to re-ask it, right? So what you can do is you basically, give me the top 10 tips for getting my house prepared, right? And then create 5 different versions of it. And then what you do is you aggregate all those blogs and you put it onto a cloud drive and then promote it out to the brokerage and saying, hey, we have all this content out there. Take it, use it, utilize it. It's free to use for you guys. Same as with the content creation for like, how many times do I ever go on an agent's website and the template is still there, right?
Yeah.
And the whole thing is that now what we can do now is basically tell the agent and say, hey, give me a few sentences about yourself. And then you go into the AI and then it creates this beautiful introduction about the agent. Now that's a big thing as well, because I can tell you right now, probably about 40% or even higher, that it's still the template that we gave them, right? And that's another thing. Social media, for sure, that's tons. Email responses. It just goes on and on when it comes to content creation. That it's endless. But again, you still have to be doing your fiduciary due diligence, and you have to learn how to prompt engineer, ask it the right questions to get the right output. And that's the critical piece in all this is prompt engineering, right? Except for Jasper, where it's already prompting for you.
Well, I think too that, some of the ways that I've used, Chat GPT specifically is to almost inspire me, right? It's like, I want to, do, 5 things brokerages can do to recruit agents or attract agents to their brokerage. If I write it out, then it writes me like bullet points of 5 things. And then I just take that content, read it, absorb it. And then I just deliver a video that says the 5 points, right? So I'm just doing it in my own voice, my own experience, but it becomes like a virtual brainstormer for me. Someone that can inspire some of the content, and then I just take that content and deliver it on video.
Yeah, and that's what's so great. Like that we get stuck in content creation, and being kind of many hats within the Century 21 BJ Roth, it was really hard for me to kind of content create. I got better at it as the years went on, but the whole thing is the speed at which the AI can build that content for you. And as long as you have a good, strong idea of how to kind of prompt and tell it and what you want, it's just endless, and the whole thing is one of the plugins that I've been working on now. What a plugin is, basically an app, okay, that's overlaid within an AI system, is that you can literally go into Yelp and say, give me the top 10 pizza places in Barrie and why are they so great, and then it'll literally create the top 10 pizza places in Barrie and the ratings and some of the quotes, and it creates a blog for you, right? And that's just one of the many things you can do. You can include in it. It's just not just about real estate. It's about other content and promote other businesses as well.
Right, the local community. So let's talk a little bit about communication now. How can brokerages use AI to better their communication efforts?
Yeah, I wish I had this when I was doing meetings. The whole thing is, and I know Teresa's on the call today. Like one of the biggest things that we're always nervous about is sending something out because we don't know what and how it's going to be framed by the agents, right? And the whole thing, what I really like about the technology today is that you can go in and give it, okay, I need to send this message out. Can you give me the pros and cons to what the agent is how the agents are going to respond to this, right? And it really does a great job at telling you, okay, maybe you want to reword this sentence a little bit better, or maybe you want to change this sentence or make this a little bit more enthusiastic. So that really helps out. The other thing is that you can create what we call tonality. So what tonality is that you can change it to being more empathetic or a little bit more concise or more analytical and stuff like that. That really helps it out. So it doesn't have that basic kind of feel to it. It really changes the language up to it. You can change it to make it sound like Warren Buffett, Stephen Jobs, Elon Musk, right? All those characters. That helps out. And then just like what you said, I go into BNN Bloomberg or Globe and Mail, or I check out in REM magazine, what are the hottest topics, or go into some Facebook social media posts that I don't want to talk about, but I'll take a look at what's trending in there and I'll grab those, and because I know the agents are engaged on the social media, these kind of social media posts, and I go in and create content regarding that. And that really helps me out by going in and speaking. Now, I don't do that anymore, obviously, but that would have helped me out greatly with that. And also going into meetings and presentations. You know, I'm using Gamma for meeting presentations now. I'm using content creation by putting information in there, right? Also, you can go in and grab a URL now and go into Perplexity and say, can you give me the 5 points that's made on this real estate article? And you just have to drop in the URL, not the whole content now. So that helps out, right? Another thing that I like is summarization. I don't have time. Now I have more time because I'm not running the brokerage anymore, which is it's nice these days. But the whole thing is that you can go in and you can get the AI to summarize a long email, or it can summarize a long website down to a paragraph, and it really gives you the oversight of that. So it really streamlines your job in higher levels of position when you don't have as much time to kind of take all this content in.
We talked earlier, Ron, about, you know, how brokerages should really adopt the technology to help in their retention efforts. So how can brokerages leverage AI to help their agents provide a better level of service to the clients? Because of course, happy clients, happy agents, a happy brokerage owner, I'm sure. So what, you know, I know we talked about, you know, some of them, but tell me a little bit more too about, you know, what they can do to provide a better level of service to their clients.
Yeah, so what I would start to do is I would start to develop, you know, the first time home buyers presentation and different age brackets or different demographics for the first generation Canadians to, you know, Canadians already being on the ground itself. I identify, you know, the whole thing is that tailor listing presentations as well, from downsizers to the first time homes selling their home, right? You know, obviously, you know, we deal with divorces, we deal with medical family issues and stuff like that. You can always tailor these listing or these brochures and business tools that we have out there and tailor it right to the specific client instead of it being so generic, right? Using the marketing material in your marketing department and start to implement it about using different call to actions, using, you know, the real strong value added. Because a lot of times you take a look at a lot of the marketing out there, it just has the agent's name and says, you know, free home evaluation. You know, there's a lot more to our business than that, right? And also use the technology to identify real estate trends and start building up newsletters that the agents are going to utilize, right? You know, the big thing is that could be coming down is another increase in interest rates. You know, creating 10 different blog types for that makes it huge, right? So as you said, agents are not great content creators, right? And there's very few of them out there that I've worked with. And in fact, I think out of every 100 agents I work with, less than a handful actually are good content creators. But they like doing it, but it takes away from doing their job, right? They're people to people, right? So there's
yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, and I think what it is just really kind of going back to like Zig Ziglar and how he says, you know, how to create a strong value added. Take his points and start putting into the creating new marketing material and content creation. That's the big thing, right? It's the science behind what we have to create is already there. It's just letting the AI to create new creations of marketing that we haven't seen before.
Right. It's all about looking at ways to provide value that realtors can use AI to provide more value to their clients. What about what brokerages can do to provide a better level of service to their realtors, right? Because they want to make sure their realtors are happy. What can they do?
Yeah, the big thing is when I got into this industry, and this is, get me wrong, this is across the whole, every industry I've worked in, communication is the number one big problem, right? I can't get a hold of my broker. I can't get a hold of, the owner of the company. And that's a normal thing that I hear across the board, right? We all have very busy lives. The whole thing is that if we're sitting at, I had the 5-minute rule, and I know some people are laughing on, I know Teresa and Jillian, everybody knows I used to have a 5-minute rule. If you called me, I'm going to get back to you in 5 minutes, right? And that's the wrong thing to do. You burn yourself out. And that's what I did, right? So using chatbots to answer very simplistic questions like use of clauses or conditions or what forms, using technology such as Cody.ai is huge, because it can create chatbots that are singular just based upon what you can put in there, like the brokerage policy and procedures about BOLI offers, things like that, where it can explain, instead of reaching out to the brokerage, to the owner or the manager or the broker of record, you can literally take all that information and put it inside of a chatbot. So instead of them calling you or reaching out to you, they can get a very simple black and white answer to those questions. That's my biggest thing, is because it's, why do agents leave? It's because they just feel like they're a number. But don't get me wrong, as managers, owners, and brokers, you still need to pick up the phone and call your agent, right? Because a lot of the times when we're building a brokerage and you get 100, 200, they just feel like a number. But this is just an additional tool that makes a big difference, because I've never seen anything like this before, where they can take very complex things and you can ask it a question and it dumbs it down for us, and it provides us a very simple understanding as an agent to explain to the client or how to proceed or approach it.
So how can realtors or brokers, and we talked a little bit about this just now, how do they, talking about utilizing AI to become much more efficient with their workflow, right? As you said, use it as kind of a virtual assistant. And yes. Yeah, so that's great. Is there anything else that brokerages can use, or how they can leverage AI to help, grow the brokerage?
Well, yeah, the whole thing is that if you're on this call and if you're listening to this, go right over to futurepedia.io and start to take a look at the tools that are there already that can be utilized by the brokerage, that can just basically revolutionize the marketing department. And one thing that's coming down the line, and this is quite interesting, and I've just seen in the last couple of weeks. So it's an in beta version. What happens is, and you're going to see this probably adopted by a lot of the companies that handle the deals department and the finance department. What you can do now, while they're in the beta version right now, is basically upload the listing documentation, upload the agreement of purchase or sale, and it will read the document, put the document, and transfer that information into the systems automatically without human connection. Now, you still need human reasoning, you still need eyes on it, but then what happens is all that information is then automatically transferred over into the finance department. I was giving a demonstration about a month ago to a real estate accountant that formerly worked in our brokerage. He's a pretty smart kid, and I wanted to bring him down. And about halfway through the presentation, his words, he got up and says, "Ron, I just need to take a long walk. I'm having an existential crisis right now because this is going to change the world." And I said, "Yeah, that's why I called you," right? And he says, and then I talked to, and then I later learned that the new program is coming down where there's going to be complete automation from when the deal's inputted in to right over to the finance department to when the money is dispersed. It's going to be completely automated with people overseeing it as well. Obviously, you still need to have your fiduciary duty in doing that. That's going to be coming down the road very soon. So you take a look at, there's going to be a lot of cost savings and a lot of less issues, obviously, and there's going to be a lot of automation, because what is the biggest issue with agents with documentation? They don't send their FinTrack documents in, right? And there's going to be automatically reminding them. Obviously there is some automation out there already regarding that, but things like that, that's going to be, keep an eye on that, because it's going to save you a lot of money, a lot of time, and it's going to make it a lot seamless.
Unbelievable. So as we wrap up here, if a brokerage want to start using AI, what are some of the first steps that you would recommend? Because again, I think it's still intimidating for people to start, engaging and embracing this technology.
Yeah, there's a lot of great 14-year-old kids out there on YouTube right now that's have some really great videos about how to start to adopt it. What I would do is I would just go on YouTube and just type in real estate artificial intelligence and take a look at the tools that are out there before delving into it, and then start to take a look at Futurepedia, and then start to take a look at prompt engineering. Is basically, how do I ask it to get the results that I want? And I think there is other aggregate websites out there, but that's a good start for you, is to start to learn how people are utilizing and how they're incorporating. Because as I said, this is a new box that's being written, right? And we don't have that AI intuition. And what's really important for us, the only way we can get it is to really educate ourselves, start to take a look at what's being said on YouTube about AI and incorporation of it in your business. And in fact, and I hate saying this, but I get so many of my information about AI through Twitter and TikTok. There's so many people out there that have some really great information. I'm not advocating for TikTok, but the whole thing is there's some really great content out there that gives you that 30-second or 1-minute presentation on how these new tools are coming down the line. And that literally every single day I have those wow moments on Twitter and going, wow, that's been created. And then I go in and I play around with it. And just remember, there's two types of technology. There's language and there's image. Okay. And the thing is, your marketing department should be both looking at both language and image, and the dual modality of using that technology and how powerful that is. So, at the end of the day, start to implement, regulate, and educate yourself. That's the big thing within brokerages.
And I think this is exciting for smaller brokerages because, there's a lot of brokerages out there that they don't have a marketing department.
Yeah.
They don't have people to do presentations, in PowerPoint. They don't have all this help. And so now this becomes like a virtual assistant for them. And maybe now they can do more things because now they have the resources to be able to do it, right? Versus just not having the bodies, not being able to afford the bodies, maybe your brokerage isn't big enough, but that just gives them now an opportunity to help their agents customize their websites, provide those newsletters to their agents, all this information that they never were able to do. Now they're able to do all that stuff. So it's exciting for small brokerages.
It is. It definitely allows them to play with the big boys, right? And in the sandbox. And that's really what it is. It's really leveraging this technology. And I know the people that are going to come out of this are the ones that are going to be picking up the phone and meeting up with the clients, but the ones that are going to really leverage this technology to have stronger touch points with their client base and streamline their business to have more time with the clients at the end of the day.
That's been great. So Ron, thank you so much. I don't know if there's any final words that you want. You've talked a lot. You've given us a ton of information. So, I wrote down all the different platforms here. You got me excited.
One of the big things is that I actually do a demonstration on all this technology. And I know that Ian and Stacy reached out to me last evening from Kenora. And I know Vanessa O'Kogan has reached out to me. And so I'll be doing a number of presentations over the next number of months with just reach out to me. I'd love to do presentations about this. And, the whole thing is I'd love to show you because I've done thousands of presentations over the last 23 years. And as Teresa says, you are everybody's I get so excited talking about this. And the whole thing is that out of all those thousands of presentations, this is the only presentations that their jaw hits the ground.
Yes.
And they're like, holy, I did not know that we are this far down the rabbit hole with this technology, right? So, but yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, you can always go over to my website. It's called AIintelligencesolutions.ca. You can also reach me at ron.o'neill@c21.ca, as well as my phone number, 705-970-3455.
All right. And of course, we can find you on Facebook.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So again, people want to know more information, just go to AIintelligencesolutions.ca. Of course, you can find Ron on all the various social media channels. Again, Ron, thank you so much. So great to see you last week in Toronto in person, finally.
Yes.
And so nice to see you virtually today. And thank you so much for providing all the information. I'm inspired. And so I hope a lot of people that have been watching this podcast are inspired too. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. So you're either listening to this podcast live or listening to this recording on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google Podcast, or you went to century21franchise.ca website. Century 21 is the world's largest residential real estate company in the world with presence in 86 countries. Here in Canada, we are 11,000 plus strong, and we're looking to align ourselves with like-minded individuals who share the same passion for what the future brokerages look like. So if you're interested in growth opportunities, please feel free to reach out to me or my colleague, Gary Zalepa. Our contact information can be found on century21franchise.ca. Anyways, thank you so much. And if you want to, you can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Anyways, thank you so much for your time.